Hi everyone, it's Plastic EP here from Melbourne, Australia. And let me tell you, it's not every day I get an author from Liverpool, right? And Dave Jones has written a fantastic book called Liverpool Music Roots. It's over 300 pages, covers so many topics. And I just want to welcome you to the show. Dave, how are you?
I'm great, yeah, and it's nice to be able to do this.
That's great. Dave, can you show everyone a copy of the book, Liverpool Music
Sure.
Roots?
Oh.
That's it. Just hold it up there. What a fantastic cover. Just take it back a little bit. That's it right there. It's perfect. Now, how long did it take you to write that whole book?
Sorry, say that again.
How long did it take to write the book, Dave?
3 years.
Amazing. So you put a lot of effort into it. And let me tell everybody out there, it's a worldwide selling book. Now, if you had to describe what's in the book, can we start with Bob Wooler, the Cavern DJ? Can you tell me more about that section there?
Yeah, I mean, Bob was born in 1926, so he felt as though he was too old for the scene, even in 1957 when he started to manage a skiffle group in Liverpool. And he did that for a year, and then he started to get into the local scene, which wasn't huge then. And it was mainly just dance halls with fights going on in the dance halls. But as the scene increased, Bob became more involved in it, and he started to buy. He was the first proper DJ in Liverpool, and he was buying records that were not just British ones, but he was going into the States and bringing home records of music that people hadn't heard, even on the radio, you know. And by 1960, Bob was a well-established DJ manager, and he had the respect of everybody in the city, all the bands, promoters, everybody. Bob was the man. And in late 1960, for the first time, he got a job in the Cavern Club. And what Bob was doing in the Cavern Club was lunchtime sessions, which were quite unique. And it was in those lunchtime sessions that the up-and-coming bands performed. And of course, they got crowds. Kids were skipping school and going to the cavern for the afternoon. And workers in the town, in the city, were going in the afternoon. Hugely popular. And that's where the Beatles came into it. That's where the Beatles grew, really. And they played about 150 lunchtime sessions in the cavern, along with nighttime sessions. But it was Bob's, just his views and how excited he was with the scene, that was the real driving force. And it was, unfortunately, you know, he never broadened his popularity elsewhere. He stuck in Liverpool, and that wasn't, you know, he wasn't doing anything wrong, but I think he just didn't have the, he was just too shy, really, to leave Liverpool. And of course, you know, the outcome of it was the Beatles.
Yeah, but you know the great thing, the Beatles used to ask him and borrow records from him because he was the source.
Yeah, you know, and it was just, I don't think there was anywhere else in the UK that could compete with the Cavern. Certainly with Wooler. And he was known all over the country by promoters were contacting him. Even the States were contacting him. And a big London promoter, Larry Parnes. Bob wrote to him in 1959 describing the music scene in Liverpool. And it was Larry Parnes who gave the Beatles their first audition in 1960. That's what Wooler did. He's just a great man.
Yeah, I know. It's totally amazing because the scene was developing in Liverpool. That was the place to be before they moved to London. And the great thing
Absolutely.
is now I want to talk about the Beatles. There's a chapter there from 1957 to 1990, the Beatles. Just go
Yeah.
through what it was like with the early Beatles. I'm very keen to know about that from your book.
The Beatles, I mean, Lennon was the man that started the Beatles in 1957, well, 56, but changed the name to the Quarrymen in 57. And, you know, they were just kids, you know, wanting to play skiffle music at the time. But Lennon was well into rock and roll. Little Richard was a god to him. And as it transpired, he was a god to Paul McCartney. They both met at a summer fair in July 1957, and were introduced to each other by school friends. And it was from there that it all started. And the two of them had something in common. Lennon and McCartney were just made for each other. And George Harrison joined the band later in 1957. He went to school with McCartney, and it was McCartney that decided to bring George into the band. And the three of them remained the core of the band until the August '63, when Ringo became the drummer. They'd sacked the drummer of 2 years, Pete Best, who's a personal friend of mine. The family are a friend of mine, and it was a huge shock. But off they went. You know, Ringo had only been playing with the band for about 6 weeks when they recorded their first record, "Love Me Do," and the rest is history, as we keep saying.
Exactly. Now, the music scene in Liverpool, I'm just saying, because you got to understand the future of music came out from there, and the Beatles were like no other group before. And before they left for London, as I said, that was their hometown, that was their scene. And from there, they branched out and played in different places all over the UK. And it's just an amazing story. And when Liverpool had to give them up and they went to London, I mean, up until that point, they were developing all the time. That's the most amazing story about Liverpool. Would you agree?
Absolutely. You know, and their manager, who joined them in late '61, Brian Epstein, he had a huge responsibility that it was him really that was the final piece that the Beatles needed to get them into recording studios, to record for the big named record companies. And he did that. You know, other bands in the city didn't quite get the same. As the Beatles started to increase in their sort of ability, other bands in the city came forward. They wanted to go to recording studios. If it wasn't Parlophone, it was Decca, but they never managed to get to the same level of the Beatles and continue with that level, to improve that level. And they were just outstanding. And the big difference between the Beatles and every other band was they wrote their own music, and it was incredible.
I also got to say, Jerry and the Pacemakers, they were right up there. And they took the song "How Do You Do It" and they made it #1 because the Beatles rejected it and didn't want to do it. But I got to say, to me, that's one of the greatest groups out of Liverpool too, Jerry and the Pacemakers.
Yeah, they were another great group. They were actually my favorite group, not the Beatles. Was the Searchers, a great band.
Yeah, musically, the Searchers were really fantastic. And as I said, the Beatles, they were worried about Jerry and the Pacemakers, and they were also worried about the Searchers as they were coming up, because that was the biggest two-threat bands that they had.
Yeah. Well, in 1963, the bands from Liverpool had taken over the UK charts. It was just incredible. You couldn't believe what you were seeing happening. And as kids, I was born in 1948, and I managed to see the Beatles 3 times in 1963. I didn't see them in the Cavern Club. I saw them in theatres, twice in Liverpool, once in Blackpool. And it was just, when you told people that you'd seen them, they just, wow, you know, what was it like? And I'm fortunate enough now, as one of the owners in the Cavern, I'm one of the few people who can still say that they saw the Beatles. You know, you didn't see them, or you're dead if you did, you know. Which is a bit of a sick way of talking, but
that's an
no,
amazing
I mean,
story, because the stable of Brian Epstein, like, her name was Cilla White. She changed it to Cilla Black, right?
yeah,
She was great
yeah.
too.
Yeah, and it's just a great story, you know. And in the book, it's like 300 pages, and it's really about Wooler and what he did. And there's no shortage of information in the book, and it's mainly pictures, because that's what it helps people understand, you know. And it wasn't just the Beatles that once the Beatles had left Liverpool in '63, and you know, they moved house basically. The number of artists that started to appear at the Cavern was incredible, especially black artists from the States. And there's one nice little story which I really love, and is it's overlooked really a little bit. But in 1962, a young American singer called Bruce Chanel, yeah,
Yeah, I
Hey
remember
Baby,
him with the harmonica and his
yeah,
song.
yeah, and he came to he reached #1 in the States, and he reached #2 in England, in Britain, and he decided to come with his harmonica player. Decided to do a little tour of England in June '62, and he did an afternoon session at the Cavern Club with the Beatles watching him, and the harmonica guy gave the Beatles some advice on their first single, which was Love Me Do, which had a harmonica in it, and was released in October '62, after the sort of assistance they'd had from Bruce Chanel. It's a great little story, you know. And he was the first American star performer to play at the Cavern.
That's amazing. But also, I got to say, I'm a big fan of Billy J. Kramer doing the Beatles songs. He was great as well.
Yeah, what a nice guy. I picked it about 10 years ago. I picked him up at the airport in Manchester to bring him to Liverpool for our Beatle Week events. And yeah, what a nice guy. You know, it's just a normal person, you know, just, and very grateful for everything that you did, you know. And it's amazing with most of those artists that we see or have seen over the years, they're just nice people. I haven't met one who's like a pain really, but not at all. And they're just, when they walk into the Cavern Club, it's a different world for them. And it's just a great venue, and with a real history behind it, you know.
Now, Dave, I've got to say, with the Cavern Club at the moment, right, in 2022, they've just had Beatle Week. It wasn't too long ago, and as said, the crowds that you had there, the Cavern Club, people love the Cavern Club. And I'm just saying, you're getting everyone now coming to Liverpool and coming through there at the moment. Yep.
Absolutely. You know, we haven't been affected too much by the pandemic, you know, so and we complied with everything. We made the place safer, healthier, and it's just a great venue. And one thing that you can do until 8 o'clock at night, you can take kids in to see live music, and the number of children or younger people that we've taken in there, 12-year-olds who enjoy it that much that they become musicians. You know, they're seeing real live music, and young people don't see that very often. I
I
don't know
totally
about the
agree. You're
States
promoting
and
Liverpool, and as I
Australia.
said, the Cavern Club is world famous, and all good luck to you. And we want everyone to come to Liverpool, birthplace of the Beatles. Come to the Cavern Club, go and see all the attractions there and places in Liverpool, because it's really fantastic, isn't it, in 2022?
Yeah, and the live music, would you believe, starts at 11 o'clock in the morning. Live music. And what better can you do?
Now, Dave, I just want you to show your book one more time and tell everybody out there where they can buy it.
We have to get the producers of the book back to you, and it's, you'll have to excuse me. I've forgotten the name. This Day in Music is the name of the company. Neil Cossa. Neil and I are friends, and so all the information that you need will have to come from Neil, not from me. And the book, the value of the book is it's a few pennies off £30. And honestly, all I can say about the book is everybody has enjoyed it, and you don't have to be a big fan. It's a great book about the music in Britain and the Cavern in Liverpool, and it's full of great pictures, and it covers artists from all over the world, not just local artists.
Exactly. Dave, can you show the book one more time? Because I want to tell you something. Now, I've gone on the internet, and the biggest Australian distributors have the book for sale too. Booktopia, all these other sites now, they're already selling the book online from Australia. So that's great to know, isn't it?
Yeah, great. Yeah, absolutely.
So I want everybody to go to Liverpool Music Roots. It's on the net. You'll be able to buy it. As I said, I even looked it up, and it's under £30 or £30. What great value. We want everyone to go out there and buy it. I want to thank you so much today, Dave.
It's a pleasure. It really is a pleasure. Can I just say one thing? When you get the book, you can also go into the archive. It doesn't cost any money, where you've got all papers and history, which, if you're that interested, you'll spend years looking at, you know. But that's just a bonus. But everything that is in the archive and everything that is in the book, I've written, and or Bob Wooler has written. And you know, I just admired Bob that much. I had to do the book.
No, that's fantastic. Now, I just want to ask you, have you got any links or any websites up on the net where they can go to?
How do you mean for the Cavern?
No, for the book.
Again, I'll have to put that on the. I'll have to speak to the to This Day in Music, and get back to you. Is that okay?
Yep, no problem. We want to thank you so much for being on the show, Dave.
Okay. It's
Thank you.
a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Thank you.